Welcome to the I Don't Active Health Show with your host Khalil Smith. And we got Julius Johnson here.
What's up, man? How you doing?
So I'm doing well. How are you today?
Outstanding. It's a beautiful day, man. I
Um,
would move this camera around and show you what my little balcony view is out here in Guam, but you can't help but feel good about it, man.
I'm gonna have to check out that place soon. Anyways, I got a couple of questions for you. I'm just gonna ask you, and then we're
Yep.
just gonna have a conversation about it.
Yep.
Where are you from originally?
Well, so I was born in Maryville, Indiana. That's out. It's essentially right outside of Chicago, and I went to elementary and middle school there, and then a little bit of high school, and moved to Baltimore, or moved to Maryland, and then spent my high school and adult years in Baltimore.
Okay, okay. Why did you join the military, and when did you join?
That would have been 2004. I went into the delayed entry program,
Yeah.
the DEP program. So I was in Baltimore, and I was in college, right? A couple of years into college, I was going for engineering at Morgan State University, and right in Baltimore. And then I was like, man, I am really not feeling the college thing right now. I'm putting myself in more debt, and I was not focusing. I wasn't putting 150% into that thing at the time, that thing which was school. So I was like, 9/11 happened a few years later. It was like 3 or 4 years late. Yep. 3 years later is when I decided I was going to go see a recruiter, and then showed up there. And Baltimore can be one of those cities where if you don't have your head on a swivel and you're not into the right things, you could quickly get run off track. So I was trying to prevent that from happening in my life.
Okay, okay, okay. It makes sense. Are you still happy with that decision after all this
Absolutely.
time? Okay, okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I look back. I mean, I got a bunch of friends that made similar decisions, or so I got people from all across the spectrum. Folks that stayed focused, down on that grind, successful, doing their thing, still in the city and whatnot. But I also got family members that went and joined the military, and came back to the area and whatnot. So for the decision for me, I don't regret anything. It's definitely made me who I am today. So I'm proud
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are going through the same things, wondering if that might be the right decision, or trying
Yep.
to avoid school debt, and trying to decide if it's right for them. So I'm sure they're going to enjoy to hear that. Good feedback. But I do want to talk about NPC and when you did that in Connecticut,
Yep.
I believe. Yeah, New England. Can
Yep.
you talk to me about that when you won that, and how did that transition come about? Like how you were introduced to it, and then a
Okay.
little bit about that transition.
So when I was doing my first shore duty back in 2010 to 2013, I was stationed in Groton, and I'd be in the gym, and it was a core group of people. You know how you end up seeing the same people in the gym all the time. One of the guys was a competitor, and he was like, "Man, you got the physique for it, blah blah blah." Kind of like, you should look at this website, NPC, all of the local shows are on there. So I looked into it. And I mean, I'd always been into fitness my entire life from young to now. But a lot of people are into going to the gym and whatnot. And I was like, but there's only a few folks that actually decide, hey, I'm going to take this and go add the nutrition piece, and then get on the stage, have enough confidence to not be nervous to get up there and then compete. So long story short, I ended up getting around to doing one of them, and once I did one, I was hooked. It's funny because I had no idea what the heck I was doing. When I look back at some of the poses that I did for the original one, I'm like, oh my God, that's horrible. But yeah, I ended up uh, that was 2017. I was actually attached to the USS Springfield, a submarine out of Groton that was in the shipyard up in Maine at the time. and that's when I was doing the prep for that New England Championships. The New England Championships is held in Boston, right downtown in Boston. I forget the name of the theater downtown that it's at, but it was an amazing feeling, dude. I mean, I had gone and done. By that time, I had done like 3 or 4 other NPC shows, and slowly creeping. Like the first one, I got a 5th place. Then it'd be like a 3rd place, 2nd place, and just creaking ever so closely. But that show, when I won 4 different categories, so I'll say it was. I did men's physique, uh, the short class because I'm 5'7", and then I also did masters because that's age driven, not driven necessarily by what your physique is like, but driven by the age requirements. So I did masters and open physique. I think it was class alpha, and then that was my first time. My buddy, the guy that was helping me with some posing out of New Hampshire, friggin', he's like, man, your conditioning at this stage in the prep is freaking ridiculous. I think you should just go ahead and do some bodybuilding, do the bodybuilding too, because you're probably gonna be just as lean as the dudes doing bodybuilding, and you got enough muscle mass. So I took his advice, and and absolutely I did masters bodybuilding and then middleweight bodybuilding.
Yeah, that's incredible. I do got a question for myself. How do you manage your work schedule while trying to accomplish that goal? Even though you said you got hooked, how did you manage that?
And it's just like anything. I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but the reality of it is if you want something bad enough, then you're going to sacrifice to make sure that those things happen. And that's all it was. I mean, I was already going to the gym and working out, as we mentioned, right? But then you got to throw the extra dimension in there where you trying to make sure that you get the precise amount of cardio in, that you're eating the right amount of nutrition, and that bit of nutrition is coming from different areas, proteins, the fats, or your carbs and whatnot. So it's not easy, definitely not easy, but you have a sense of accomplishments once you get on the other side of doing a show, and you gotten through that successfully. It's like there's so many other things in life that are easier to do than that. So it puts things in perspective about focus, willpower, motivation, all those things.
Okay, makes sense. Where do you think you adapted that mindset, like that work ethic to do something like that? Because not everybody has that work ethic or mindset that they can do or accomplish something of that feat.
Well, so just like everything else, none of this stuff happens in a vacuum. You don't succeed on your own. I got like you depend on other folks that you run into at competitions. From like there's several competitors from the NPC that I've done shows with that we all follow each other on social media and whatnot. And when you're at some of those low points, you need to see what. Let me see what my guy's doing over here. You know what I mean? Let me see what she's doing over here. They recharge your batteries when your motivation is starting to run low, but it's definitely, you got to have a certain amount of it internal. You got to have a certain amount of drive and just will to do it. That's People don't just accidentally pick up bodybuilding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I had a little bit. My uncle Bronston Austin Jr. was um, he was really big. He was an amateur, never ended up making it pro, but he's like been in magazines and stuff, fitness magazines and whatnot. So I already knew that the fitness, I had the genes for it, and I had an example of what success could look like inside of that. So I would ping on him for some of his tips and techniques as well during the process.
So pretty much, it's good to have a mentor or somebody to who done it before, and that
Yep.
was really big for you.
Yep.
Okay,
Or
seeing an example.
and not only that, but peers of like-minded people that can keep you motivated because life is a sine wave, man. It's up and down, right? When you're riding the downside of the curve, chances are everybody is not going to be on that same cycle as you. So somebody is on their way up, you know what I mean? And then you can draw from that so you can minimize that downside on your sine wave.
True, true. I think I remember someone said iron sharpens iron. So yeah, all about your
Yeah.
peers.
Yeah.
All right, I got one more question, so this is gonna help me too. What 3 tips would you give someone that's thinking about doing that, but just haven't like tested the waters yet? But they're in the gym every day, their nutrition kind of subpar, but they're interested in it. What 3 things
Okay.
will you tell that
So,
men or woman?
okay. So first off, you got to be blunt and up honest and realistic right at the beginning. It's not easy. It's easy to fall off track. So you got to really ask yourself, why am I wanting to do this? Is this something that I really want, or do I just want to talk about it? You know what I mean? Talk about it or be about it. So if you're willing to make some sacrifices, absolutely. And then the second thing I would say is you got to get around that group of core friends or associates or people that you follow that are into that same thing, because they're going to be able to show you some stuff. They're as long as if they've been in the industry or the process longer than you will be able to learn something from them, and you will be able to, like I just mentioned, um, get some of that motivation on the rough days when it's, hey, I don't want to get up and go and work out. Oh, I'm at a 600 calorie deficit and I don't really feel like I have enough energy to go work out. They might be able to give you the insight on how to still be able to get the nutrition around your workout, even though you're eating at a calorie deficit. So you have enough energy when you're going in there to get your workout in. You know what I mean? So you can do that with maximum effectiveness.
Okay, okay. So thank you for that answer. Now I'm gonna ask you about your military background. You came in as enlisted, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I know you're an officer now. Tell me about that transition and why you opted to go officer.
So I came in as a Nav ET, navigation ET, electronics technician on submarines. And when I left college, I was trying to find something that was as close to engineering. I was going for electrical engineering as something that was, because I'm still interested in that same kind of stuff, right? So when I went to the recruiter, I ended up coming up with the submarine electronics computer field, and you pick your rate essentially when you get in sub school. I didn't originally want to be a Nav ET, and actually, in fact, I said that was the last thing. I ranked that as the bottom of things that I wanted to actually do. But funny thing is, I wanted to be a radio man because it says comms, electronics, and aligning electronic circuits and whatnot. But once I actually found out what I was doing on the ship, you do way more stuff associated with electronics and troubleshooting circuits as a nav ET than you do as a radio man. So when I got to the ship, I was more appreciative of it. I just didn't want to do all of the chart related stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but over time, I saw, yeah, I'm getting senior, and I feel like as you get senior in the enlisted submarine community, that's what happens to your career and your options. You can only go to a certain amount of places because that's where submarines are generally located. So your career kind of bottlenecks. Becoming an LDO, even though there's money associated with it and whatnot, I do like money, obviously, but that's not my sole motivator for doing anything. Um, but the LDO community opened my aperture back up right in the middle of my career at the time. Instead of, if I stayed enlisted, I would have been bottlenecking. Now I'm a junior officer. I can go to so many different other places and still support the submarine community and my designator. So that's why I did it. I I would have had the opportunity to come and join the submarine and come out here to Guam, but not. I wouldn't have been able to go to some. I'm the training officer right now on the MRES land, the submarine tender out here. I would not have had an opportunity like that if I stayed enlisted. You know what I mean? I was always on fast attack submarines, and then my first officer job, which was out in Washington, had me as the electronics material officer dealing with SSBNs and SSGNs. I never dove into that community until then. I just feel like there's more opportunities to go a lot more places and diversify your career and your background um, by utilizing that commissioning program, which I'm happy that I did. I mean, I'm definitely will say that I'm really proud of my Chiefs tour because of that 9 or 10 guys that I had in my division and my direct impact on how they saw the Navy. If that, because believe it or not, the Chief has more impact on sailors' retention and them staying in the Navy than any other rank in the military, in the Navy, for sure. However your chief is and how your interaction with your chief usually dictates how you feel about the Navy, if you want to stay in the Navy, if you want to get out, for the most part.
Yeah, I love that answer. It's all about growth. Like you definitely don't want to bottleneck, hit that ceiling, and not know where you're going to go next. And which we love options. So
Yeah.
especially if you get increased pay, increased options, get more options where you want to go. So I love that
Yep.
answer. So I had another question. Why did you choose submarines?
Why subs?
Yes, why did
Um,
you choose that?
well, particularly, I didn't actually choose the submarine. I went to, like I said, I went to the detailer,
The
and
detailer?
he gave me a bunch of uh, different available options.
Okay.
And the submarine just happened to be the thing at that time that was going to give me a bonus. And I mean, I wasn't afraid of submarines, but I looked into it, obviously. Looked into it after the detailer told me what those available options were. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know anybody that's ever been on the submarine. So this is unique and different. So I was definitely open to the thought of doing it, but it wasn't like I went to the detailer with in mind, yeah, I'm going subs. You know what I mean?
Okay, okay. You want a different experience. I hear that. What
Yep.
are some of your favorite experiences from being on a sub or in the military in general?
Oh, well, obvious. Well, the import time period is always you get a chance. I remember when I was a young sailor, you do the typical young sailor things. First time really being outside of the United States when I started going and traveling abroad with the Navy. So, I was acting the fool. I was out there getting drunk. I didn't see. I probably saw two actual monument statues. I wasn't being a real tourist. I was just there as a foreigner, there to drink and party, right? But obviously, as you mature, get a little bit older, your what you're into changes. What you think is the idea of a good time changes. So as I got older and saw different places in Europe, I was actually planning little things. Hey, I knew I'm pulling into this place. What's a cool thing to go see? And then we plan our uh, different sightseeing deals based on that kind of a thing.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I joined. So I got another question. So let's say we got a sailor who's overweight, but they have a hectic schedule, but they're trying to look to someone who's able to manage that schedule as well as work out. What tips would you give this sailor who'd like the motivation to work out? Because I've seen you've dominated that to keep it as
Okay.
separate.
Yeah. So first off, the fact that they're realizing and having a thought process of wanting to change something is the first step always, right? So the great thing about the military is all you got to do is go to on base in the gym. You're gonna find somebody that if what you want to do is get fit, you're gonna find somebody inside of the gym that you can look up to that could be sort of a mentor or something. And then the military has numerous resources. If you want them, they're out there, i.e., nutrition guidance. I'm not a registered dietitian or anything like that. I know how to friggin' eat for me and whatnot, and I can provide that input. But the Navy also has several actual registered dietitian, nutritionists, all of those things that are out there. They all exist out there. You just got to want to go and do it. And you got to seek out like-minded people. You got to humble yourself enough to be like, you know what? I know what I want. This guy is clearly further along, or gal is clearly further along the path than me. I just need to get out of my comfort zone, shyness, if that's what it is, and go ask. People generally help you if they're decent human beings, you know what I mean? And I could say in the military, you really don't deal with too many people that are going to turn you away if what you're trying to get is something that they have an answer to.
Okay. Appreciate that. I'm sure whoever's going through that appreciate it as well. I got about 2 more questions. So, what are some obstacles and adversities that have come about while you're in the military? How have you overcame them?
Okay, that's easy. So, man, I kind of already alluded to it a little bit with the conversation about when I was a young sailor, just wanting to get out of the, because submarines, you kind of work hard, but you play hard too, right? We pull in the port, and the first thing I wanted to do was go get blasted beyond recognition. So I had to realize at some point, hey, I got a bad relationship with alcohol because I was doing it too excessively. I found in an adult stage that I can do it more reasonably, but back in those days, I was reckless, right? So identifying that was an issue, and I stopped drinking for about 10 years altogether, not even a drop, right? And that was the catalyst for me transitioning into get my bachelor's degree, me establishing that steady routine of working out. Before I was working out regularly, but now I'm like so devoted and focused on it. I'm not missing days. You know what I'm saying? I'll miss days only when my body tells me that I shouldn't do it, right? But I wasn't missing days due to being hungover, which happens a lot. Happened a lot back in the past with my relationship with alcohol. So I cut it out, and then I started to set all of these different goals, write them down on paper so I can actually see them, and then start going after them, and was doing them, getting them. It's funny because like my actual I commissioned as a naval officer before actually the second goal. One of those other goals was to get my IFBB pro card. I'm still chasing that. Still haven't done it yet. I got some buddies that have done it on active duty in the military, so it's a doable goal. I just haven't held myself accountable enough, and I'll be the first person to say that.
I'm glad that you brought that up. Goals. That's like something I'm big on talking about. Um, when you're like you said, IFBB Pro Card, that's your next goal. How do you go about making your goals? Like you say, you write it down. Do you say it out loud? Do you just think about it constantly? Um, and do you assess the steps every day and reflect it to see if you're making progress? How do you go about that with some of the accomplishments you have done so far?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's just like I treat it like a work checklist. Every day that I go to work, there's things that I need to get done. All of those things don't get done on the same day. Some goals require time and they require more effort. So you just got to keep yourself honest, like you said, and reflect on the goals that you set. If you're setting your goals to where you can accomplish them in a day, then first off, you need to pick some harder goals. First off, that's how I feel
Yeah,
about it,
facts.
right? So I want to set some unrealistic sounding goals. So if you once you accomplish it, then it's like, dude, I did what I thought was possibly impossible. And a lot of people end up naysayers and people that are out there hating. That's exactly what it is. They are trying to reflect some of their own personal failures onto you. Oh, you can't do that. Why can't I do that? And why would you perceive that I can't do that? That's because they failed before in trying to accomplish some of these things, and then they're projecting that stuff on you. That's just human nature. It's bad. That's horrible. That's a horrible personality trait. But in general, that's how humans are. That's what we do. So set them goals high, unrealistically high. So when you accomplish stuff like that, it's like life altering. You know what I mean? You just boosted yourself in a whole nother stratosphere, you know?
All right. What if you got one guy who got all these goals and they're um they're not necessarily realistic, but they're attainable, but he might be around a crowd that doesn't encourage it, and now he's lacking motivation. What would you tell that guy who's about to stop, like about to give up on trying to reach those goals?
Hey,
How
man.
would you talk to him?
Okay. So you got to keep pushing past. Usually you find out the most about yourself right at the point of failure, right before you fail on something. And a failure is not really, I mean, if you can't be afraid to fail, because some people like to live in a little safety box and never take any risk. You got to fail. You learn more from a failure than a win. Seriously. That's first and foremost. Second off, I'm going to tell them that you are not going to accomplish your goals unless you put yourself in a different circle. You can't, you see yourself on the cusp of failing. You see that you're around people that are not supportive of your goals and they don't have any common goals. Why are you in that circle? You know what I'm saying? If they're not fostering or helping you to positively reinforce you, if they really genuinely give a crap about you, they're going to provide that positive reinforcement, because we all want to see each other. I want to see people that I love and people that I mess around with do better. You know what I'm saying? We always got to be trying to step it up. If you complacent and you're satisfied being right here through all of it, I mean, I guess I can't really talk down on anybody. That's just not me. And I'm not going to surround myself with people that are just like, oh, I'm just going through life on the treadmill, not really advancing. The motion is happening, the illusion of progress is happening, but you're just going through the motions. I want to actually go out there and feel like I accomplished something. And the way you feel like that you accomplish things is you got to go through some stuff. You're going to go through some crap. You got to feel real bad. You don't really feel accomplished if everything is easy. It has to be hard. And that's a part of it. The struggle is part of the feeling of accomplishment. You can't have accomplishment without struggle. They go hand in hand.
True. I love that. I love that. 'Cause you won't change. You won't get out your comfort zone if you don't have to overcome these boundaries or try to change. You won't change unless you have this conflict or adversity. So I love that. So I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you making time. I know we're in 2 different time zones, so it was a little difficult for me to make sure I plan it correctly.
It's all good.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving me advice, and whoever's listening, hopefully they learn something and they can use it immediately.
Okay.
And become successful and make new goals, because I believe that's important. Your mindset and just fitness, nutrition. Because like,
I'll tell you one last thing, one little parting thing. A smart man told me that like health is really wealth. Because I mean, you can be Jeff Bezos, you can be Steve Jobs, and get hit with a life-altering medical condition, and all that money won't matter because you'll be trying to spend it to get healthy, right? At the end of the day.
exactly, yes. Yeah, I tell my brother that all the time. Sure, you can make all the money in the world, but if your health's not right, you're not gonna have time to spend it.
Yep.
But yeah. Thank you again. I appreciate that, Julius Johnson.
All right, brother.
All right, you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Take it easy.
Hopefully, talk to you soon.
Yep. Take care.